leaders. We actually want them to prove us wrong.
Well, let's talk more about the conclusion of the Africa Climate Summit. And joining me now from Nairobi, Kenya is Fati N'zi-Hassane, who's the Africa Director for Oxfam. Fati, thanks for making time for us on the program. Let me immediately get a reaction from you to that announcement, the Nairobi Declaration, but also the concern by activists that they don't trust their leaders to implement that declaration.
Thank you very much, Wahida, for having us today. Well, you know, we have followed the development of this summit with great attention, and we have to say we're disappointed with the outcome. Obviously, it's a good thing that President Ruto and the declaration is advocating for reforms in the global financial architecture, but they're basically asking for more, debt. And you know how African countries are already crippled by debt. We hear also the funding pledges. These are fine, but I understand why young people like Vanessa Nakate would say they do not trust their leaders anymore, because these are some of the promises that have happened in the past before. We have heard the biggest polluters make financial commitments, but we have not seen these promises, materialize before. You know that rich countries have committed to give $100 billion per year. We do not see any accountability mechanism being put in place, through this summit. So this is a missed opportunity for us as Africans to build the trust and to ensure that those commitments are followed through.
Fati, you've stated it's a missed opportunity. You've said you're disappointed. If you were in that room when the declaration was being drafted, what lines would you have put in? What different alternative proposals would you have suggested to African leaders?
Well, first of all, I would have included more gender transformative climate policies. As you may know, during the summit, there was some heavy discussions around gender, but these were confined to the First Lady's Pavilion. And we did not see any of these locally led adaptation solutions, inclusion of grassroots women organizations into climate policy dialogues, policy response, gender response policies, in the declaration. We do not see anything, really focusing or including gender. If I were in the room, I would not have, pushed for, or I wouldn't have agreed for, us as Africans calling for a global tax on fossil fuels, because, at the end of the day, when you tax fuel, when you tax transportation, the end customer is going to pay for it. So our fear here is that it's going to add to the prices, is going to affect to the prices and add to the inflation phenomenon that we're already seeing. So what we say is that carbon tax could be fine in the event that we have also measures to make sure that corporations do not add these prices into the end prices of products.
Well, Fati, if you're able to tell me this briefly, I guess one could say that it's not the end. There's COP28 coming up. There's a chance for African leaders to implement a bit of what you're talking about. Briefly, what message do you then give to leaders as they focus now on the upcoming COP summit?
Well, this summit would have given us an opportunity, to start paving the way for a common position on the loss and damage fund. We place a great hope on the Loss and Damage Fund to promote climate justice. As civil society, we do not have any indication that African countries are in order to deliver a common position. So let's push for a concrete common position on how are we going to operationalize the Loss and Damage Fund at COP28.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Fati N'zi-Hassane, who's the Africa Director for Oxfam, joining us from Nairobi at the tail end of the Africa Climate Summit.